everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining today's webinar with American West Metals. I'm Annabelle Munro, Account Director at Investability, and I'm pleased to be joined by Dave O'Neill, the Managing Director of American West. Now, it's an extremely exciting day for the company because after all their hard work, today is the day American West is listing on the ASX. To give a brief overview of how the webinar will unfold, Dave will briefly talk through the highlights of American West before opening up to a Q&A. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Dave O'Neill to talk us through the highlights.
Thanks, Annabelle. And yeah, I'll just echo what you said. And look, very exciting day for us today, listing on the ASX. Firstly, I want to thank everyone that's worked towards getting this over the line, and especially our shareholders. We've got an amazing bunch of shareholders, and we look some amazing projects, and we look forward to adding some significant value over the next few years. So thank you everybody for joining us. And yeah, look, let me take you through a quick presentation, a bit of a snapshot of where we are again, just to remind everyone about the projects and our strategy, and then we'll take questions from there. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. So as you guys know, a quick refresher, American West is a new Australian company on the ASX. We main focus is copper, zinc, silver, indium, but we also have other commodities in there as well in some of our wonderful projects. So let me go through here. I guess the beauty of our assets and us listing at the moment is we do have the right assets and we do have the right timing. So the first thing is it was very important for us to be in tier 1 mineral districts and jurisdictions. We've got a strong belief that you need to be near big deposits to discover and develop big deposits. And in that, we have some existing resources in both Utah and in Nunavut in Canada. The beauty as well for us is that we really wanted to find assets that had existing resources and that meant metal in the ground. That really underlines our valuation, and we've already got over 1.2 million tonnes of zinc metal already defined in 2 of our projects. Outside of this, there's fantastic near mine and brownfield exploration potential. We have high-grade zinc and copper mineralisation that's already been discovered in the near mine areas and in highly underexplored areas as well. So look, we're strongly leveraged to the trends in the copper and zinc markets at the moment. Fantastic base metal prices at the moment, and that's set to continue. So we think we're in a good space in terms of supplying, the clean energy metal thematics at the moment. And we've put together a really good team to be able to deliver this for you guys. One thing we do want to do is we want to be a progressive mining company, and what that means is really to not so much operate as large miners and mining companies have before, but look at optionality around our deposits. We want to develop a low footprint strategy, and what that means is really have low impact to the environment and the areas and the communities in which we operate. We want to create legacies. This is a brand new company. It's a real chance for us to develop the company with a legacy that lasts. We want to engage the communities that we operate, and we've got fantastic community support in where we do operate at the moment. Obviously, a strong focus on copper and zinc, which are essential to support the energy transition at the moment, and geared up to supply the future energy and resource needs. Quick snapshot of the team. Obviously, quite small team, but a lot of deep in-country experience and management experience in the jurisdictions that we operate. We have John Prunius. He's non-executive chairman. He's also a founder of American West. He is current also chairman of St. George Mining. They're an ASX listed company, nickel and copper explorer in WA, and they've done fantastic things in the recent times. Myself, geologist with a lot of experience, lucky to be involved in some big development and discoveries globally in base metals and gold. Mike Anderson, a lot of people would know, familiar with the ASX company Firefinch, African gold miner. He's done fantastic things since Mike's been there in the last 6 months or so, and some fantastic capital raisings, also business development they've done recently. Rocky Prey, so for us, it was very important to have boots on the ground. Rocky Prey has recently joined us. He's our Vice President of Operations. He's based in the States. He's an American. He's a mining engineer. He's worked in the Carlin Trends, Battle Mountain Trends. He's developed and operated in some very large mines over there. So he's a boots on the ground. He'll be managing the West Desert scoping study activities going forward. So in addition to that, we also thought it very important, being in a different jurisdiction to Australia, that we had some good deep technical experience and expertise over there. We're lucky to have Bob Schaefer. He's a 30-year plus experienced geologist, mining Hall of Famer. Been really instrumental in some large discoveries, and has got some fantastic connections over there. George B, current CEO of US Gold. He's an engineer, and it was really important for us to have an engineer on board, given the development timelines that we look with West Desert and Seal. And he's been involved in some large developments as well globally. And Tom Ehrlich, he's a copper specialist in a way, current CEO of Aston Bay Holdings, who we have share our option agreement with at Storm and Seal. So he's a fantastic asset to us as well, very well connected in Nunavut and with the communities up in the Arctic there. So it's great to have a really good team on board to help our strategy moving forwards. Quick snapshot of the portfolio. So West Desert, very large skarn, existing resource of over 60 million tonnes. We've identified the real value, which is a high-grade core, about 16.5 million tonnes at 6.3% zinc, copper, and indium there. So this is a regional scale mineral system. It's in the same belt as Bingham Canyon and the Tintic mining districts. Lots of upside. We've got some fantastic potential around that, which I'll talk to in a second. We've got Storm and Seal up in Canada. There's really two projects in one. We've got a high-grade zinc and silver deposit at Seal, which is an inferred resource of 1 million tonnes at over 10.5 or 10.24% zinc, and high-grade silver with over 100,000 tonnes of zinc there. So that's completely open. So there's excellent potential down dip and also along strike to expand that resource. There's also the fantastic Storm prospect, which has got numerous high-grade intersections of high-grade copper, chalcocite dominant copper from surface. And both of these are within a very large and unexplored land package. The Seal zinc horizon goes for about 120 kilometres, and only 5% of that's been tested with drilling. Lastly, but not leastly, Copper Warrior, located very close to Lisbon Valley, Utah's second largest copper mine. Confirmed prospectivity there. There's outcropping mineralisation all over the place. This is a very simple geological model, identical to the Lisbon Valley mine. It's essentially a turnkey exploration opportunity for us. Things we want to do straight away. So we want to define a JORC compliant resource at West Desert and Seal, and this will be the focus certainly in the new year. We start drilling in January next year at West Desert. Rigs already booked. We also want to define initial resource at Storm, Copper Warrior. Two things we did pre-IPO with the seed funding was do a Storm EM survey and also a gravity survey at West Desert. These two data sets are fantastic, and they will lead to us defining further exploration upside around West Desert and Storm and Seal. And we're also doing an upgrade of the infrastructure at West Desert at the moment to support the scoping study activities. Just a quick one on West Desert. It's, like I said, a very large polymetallic skarn and carbonate replacement deposit, regional scale system within the Seaver orogenic belt. Now, this hosts Bingham Canyon, Tintic. This system, the West Desert, has identical rocks to both these areas, porphyry related. There's high-grade zinc, copper, gold, silver, and molybdenum intersections around West Desert. And importantly, in terms of permitting, it's located on private land. So the other thing that was just recently completed, we completed the asset acquisition of West Desert, and American West now owns 100% of that asset. So all of this is immediate catalyst for further exploration and get the scoping study away in the new year. Like I said, the real focus for us at West Desert is the high-grade core, 60 million tonne. You can see the image there. The light grey shading is essentially the 60 million tonne resource shell. You can see the deep red there. You essentially, when you high-grade the deposit, it falls into about 3 or 4 significantly highly continuous lenses, and these are all high-grade silver and zinc and copper. This lends itself to a low footprint strategy where we, instead of having a very large underground mine, this is much more fit for purpose, probably a more sustainable development strategy, which we're going to work on. It also includes the potential to have an open pit oxide resource. We've had fantastic metallurgical recoveries for the oxide material, which is unusual for zinc, but certainly it performs a lot better than most zinc oxides globally. There's also fantastic silver, lead, moly and gold upside in this. They were not estimated in the original PEA resource. So we know there's significant silver that is associated with the zinc and the lead, and these haven't been estimated. So that may be a simple re-estimation to give us upside there. The deposit's open in every direction. Essentially, you can see 2018 drilling there. There's at least 4 high-grade intersections outside the current resource. So we know the thing's going to grow. And importantly, the reason some of the deposit is inferred because Indium was only assayed in 35% of the resource drilling. Importantly, and this is where we think, American West provides compelling value for our shareholders, is that if you look at where we sit in comparison to some of our ASX peers at the moment, you can see we've got a very, relatively low market capitalisation as of today, which is fantastic. But you can see there, certainly our resource is extremely favourable in comparison to these guys. There's fantastic upside in the indium, the silver, the lead and the gold. And so we see significant, compelling valuation for us going forwards. Quickly on Storm Seal, again, fantastic location, very accessible, located in the Arctic, but in very accessible locations. We're only 100 kilometres from Resolute, which is essentially the Kalgoorlie of the north up there. It's got everything you need, daily flights, fantastic community support, and lots of community assistance working on our project. We have a 35-man camp on site, turnkey. We fly in, turn the thing on, and off we go. That's there all year round, nothing to do there. So it's a very large land package, over 4,000 square kilometres, and it's very underexplored. The two main prospects that have been defined is, like I mentioned, is the Storm Copper. It's about 15 square kilometres. There's numerous high-grade copper intersections in a number of prospects identified there. You can see some of the outstanding intersections that are in the region. Two of those, the 56 metres and the 110 metres at 2.45% copper, are located in the 2750 zone. They're 100 metres apart, and that drilling is not closed off. So there's fantastic upside at Storm, and one of our priorities will be to start to define some initial resources at a couple of these prospects. Similarly, Seal, high-grade zinc and silver, outstanding grades. This deposit is underdone. It's open at depth and along strike. And we know from recent studies that show that this is related to the Polaris mineralisation event, which is a tier 1 scale zinc, silver and copper mineralisation event in the Arctic. Lastly but not least, the Copper Warrior. This, like I said, is only 15 kilometres from Lisbon Valley, which is currently operating. It's Utah's second largest copper mine. We have numerous copper intersections and mineralisation exposed at surface. The two main Lisbon Valley mining units that host the copper are both present in our project area, as is the Lisbon Valley Fault, which is the main controller mineralisation in the area. So this is turnkey. This is going to be a very simple exploration program. There's also a potential toll treating option with Lisbon Valley being only 15 kilometres away. So this is a very turnkey operation for us, low cost, low risk, and we should be able to fast track this opportunity. And this is just about, what the plan for the next couple of years. Obviously, this will change with success moving forwards and can be fast tracked. But essentially, we're going to work through with West Desert will be the bulk of the funds moving forwards. That'll be 24/7 drilling and scoping study activities, which have already commenced. Storm Seal is more seasonal, but we intend to do a lot of the met work and beneficiation type work in the off season up there. Or Copper Warrior will slowly ramp up to being a more robust exploration program in the near future. And that's essentially it. Annabelle, happy to hand over back to you.
Thanks, Dave. Well, we can't wait to be a part of American West journey. Now, that brings us to our Q&A section of the webinar. Just a bit of housekeeping. If you wish to submit a question, you can do so through the Q&A box. There were a few questions that were submitted prior to the webinar. I might start with them. So the first question is from Andrew, and he said, the 110 meters at 2.5% copper from the surface at Storm and Seal is encouraging. Is there further drilling planned to extend the resource and convert to JORC?
Yeah, like I might have touched on in the presentation, is that immediately along strike, 100 meters along strike from that intersection, we have 56 meters at over 3% copper. That intersection is completely open to the west, and there's no drilling between those. So one of the focuses for us will be to do further drilling at a number of these prospects at Storm this season. They'll include infill drilling around that 110 meters and also extensional drilling to that as well. So we've just recently completed another EM survey up there, and the results of that will come out soon. And that will give us a bit more, hopefully, exploration potential in that area as well.
Deanne said American West has a bit of optionality with 4 projects. How are you managing all the projects in terms of committing funds and time?
That's right. We do have a lot of projects and a lot to do. West Desert will draw the bulk of the funds moving forwards, given its how advanced it is. And like I said, it's going to be largely scoping studies activities going forwards. Drurig's planned to get there in January. It'll pretty much stay for the next year. There's a lot of work to do on some of our development scenarios, and we also want to convert the resource to be JORC compliant. Storm and Seal is a little bit more seasonal, given it's in the Arctic and the high Arctic there. So we tend to operate in the summer months there. So I guess that restricts how much you can spend up there during the year. But we plan to have 2 drill rigs on site up there. So and Copper Warriors, like I said, a little bit less advanced. And so that's a bit more cheap and cheerful type exploration program. So certainly West Desert will take over 50% of the funds in the short term.
Roger submitted a question saying, what's the current market price of indium and how big is the indium market?
That's a great question. And the indium market is fairly opaque. There's not a lot of information if you go out there, but we do know it's about $450 a kilo at the moment. And it varies between 350 and 600 depending on what day. It's fairly small, but it is growing. The US is 100% net importer of indium, and it's mostly found in zinc deposits within the sphalerite. So we know West Desert's the second highest grade indium deposit in the world. It's basically a free carry for us. There's nothing we have to do. We essentially, generate our zinc concentrate on site. That goes to the smelter, and then we get a check for the indium there. If the smelter needs to have a indium circuit, but the Trail zinc smelter in BC is certainly the closest zinc smelter to us, and also that they do have an indium recovery circuit there. So, and look, it's given the Red Dog will be coming off soon. China is a lot of the indium comes from China in the US. Then we think there's a real, I guess, upside for us being, one of the only indium producers in the States.
Jack has asked, what is access like to the projects? Do you foresee any issues with access?
No, none at all. And that's one of the reasons we chose these projects is their locations. Like I said, they're in tier 1 mineral districts. There's a lot of development going on in the areas. Fantastic access to Copper Warrior and West Desert, Utah. Fantastic rail system, fantastic road system. The Kennecott copper smelter we know has capacity. That would be our closest smelting for the copper concentrate. And there's a train line that goes straight from essentially Delta, which is to the east of West Desert, straight up to BC, the Trail smelter up there as well. So US infrastructure is fantastic. In terms of Storm and Seal in the Arctic, they are on the coast. The Seal deposit is located on the coast next to Aston Bay, which is a deep water port. And Storm is only about 15 kilometres inland. So that's important to be up in the Arctic. There's very Northwest Passage is open there. That's the main shipping route. That's open in summer. Polaris concentrate was shipped out of Polaris, which is a lot further north than our project for about 30 years. So the beauty of the Storm Seal area as well is that we, because it's so close to Europe, that we actually don't have to go to the US or Canada to treat our ore as well. We can make it hopefully a rough concentrate and it'll probably ship to anywhere in Europe.
Matthew's asked, When is the development timeline for West Desert?
West Desert, our first the priority will be to define a JORC compliant resource and actually test the continuity of that high grade scenario. So that's the first cab off the rank. And once we would do that, and hopefully in the first 6 months of next year, we'll that'll roll into more feasibility type studies after that. So we are going aggressively. We do want to push it, and that's why we wanted to raise the 12 million to give us the best possible chance to do that.
Jennifer asked, does the management team have enough project delivery and control expertise to deliver the 4 projects? Has anyone on the team built a mine in America or Canada before?
We do, not just within the board, but also our team. I mean, as I might have mentioned, in part of giving ourselves a license to operate in a different jurisdiction was to have that experience there. So as part of the technical advisory team, we've got George B. He's an engineer by trade. He's built mines in South America, North America, and also Europe. And our VP operations, Rocky Prey, he is based in Elko, Nevada, which is only a couple of hours from West Desert. He's been involved in the last 20 years building mines in that actual area. So fantastic on-ground support. We've got the engineering support. We've got Bob Schaefer in the technical team as well, is very well connected with the government and geological departments in Utah as well. So yeah, we do have that experience.
Chris has written in and asked, do you have a rough delivery date for the JORC resource and scoping study at West Desert?
So currently underway, we're doing a gap analysis essentially of the NI 43-101 versus the JORC for West Desert, and that'll give us a bit of a line of sight to what we have to need to do. It's a very robust resource. There's been a PEA done on it in 2014 already. Fantastic amount of drilling, lots of good QA/QC. So hopefully it's essentially just a tick and flick to do that. But we do have a drill rig on site as of January. So any drilling we required for that, we can do straight away as well. So look, I'd like to think certainly in the first 6 months we can do that. But yeah, let's wait and see what the gap analysis says.
Thomas has asked, at what stage do you see American West returning profit to investors?
Hopefully today. Look, it's obviously a little bit difficult before Christmas, but look, part of what we wanted to do with the IPO, pre-IPO money, is do some significant programs on the ground, which will give us a bit of a head start in the work going forwards. And so we're still processing that information. Hopefully we can get that out to you guys shortly. But that, with the existing work that's been done, we believe that we can really push West Desert really quickly moving forwards. And same as well, I mean, Storm and Seal are really set up. Aston Bay Holdings has done a fantastic job in getting it to where we are. And now it's a matter of just really defining some initial resources around Storm. So I think that's going to be a fairly quick process as well. I think we've got a very clear exploration and development strategy. And hopefully Copper Warrior as well is a dark horse, and it comes out as well. And it's fairly simple to define resources down there.
You claim that American West has commitment to ethical extraction and low carbon processing of clean energy metals. What have you already put in place to ensure that you meet this commitment? That's from Brett. Yeah,
so one of I guess the first thing is that West Desert is a very large deposit. And so the first thing we saw as being evaluated and also playing to the low footprint strategy is whether we can just high grade this thing, which will give us a much lower surface footprint, much more sustainable development strategy going forward. So that was important. It's also, we're looking at new technologies for the leaching side of things, and also waste dump management as well. So that's a big thing. Up in Storm and Seal, we're looking at alternative ways, to treat the storm, high-grade mineralization. We'll be starting some ore beneficiation work in the new year on Storm, and hopefully that will allow us to produce a more DSO type material. It's extremely high grade, it's massive chalcocite. Hopefully that can make sort of a rough concentrate, and we can ship that anywhere in the world at the 30% copper. So hopefully that'll prevent us having to build a large processing plant with chemicals and all that sort of thing, and a much lower, again, ecological footprint up there. So
Craig has asked, how much of the company does management own?
A lot. So John Prinius and myself own over 30% of the company. So you must say we're invested heavily. So this is it for now. We're going to make sure we put everything we can into making this successful for you guys and for ourselves, obviously. So I'd say with the total management with Mike, and we probably have up to 35% ownership in the company. The other major shareholders is in Zinc, who they sold the West Desert project to us as well. So a large part of that acquisition was some shares for those guys as well.
What is coming up in the next 3 to 6 months? That's from Ben.
So lots. We have, obviously we want to release the results of these last 2 geophysical surveys at Storm West Desert. We have a drill rig planned to arrive on site on the 10th of January at West Desert, and that'll start the initial program, which has 3 key aims: is to get more oxide material for the network. We want to confirm the continuity of the high-grade lenses. We also want to test some of the zinc, high-grade zinc and copper lenses around the deposit as well, and also get into the near mine exploration. So that kicks off in January. We are currently upgrading the infrastructure at West Desert, so that is underway. We will also, in the next 6 months, kick off the Copper Warrior exploration, which would involve an IP survey and then some RC drilling down there as well. So Storm and Seal have to wait till the summer, the northern summer, so that probably kick off in June, July next year.
What do you mean by low footprint strategy? That's from Ravi.
Yeah, so it goes back into what we were talking about before. So treading lightly, and that means on the environment and also with the community, and working with those guys, because traditionally there's been a slash and burn kind of concept for big mining companies going in, and even though we're operating in quite remote areas, we believe that we want to make sure we're doing our bit by the environment. And we'll look at alternative energy requirements, where West Desert's a fantastic place. It gets windy, and there's a lot of solar, as you can imagine. So these will all be part of our development and scope and study activities going forward, is just looking at how we can do this. But certainly, like I said, part of it is to take a very big deposit and high grade it and have a much lower, mining rates and things like that, but also try and maximise the amount of metal we're extracted out of that as well at the same time. So,
and just finally, Sophie's asked why the focus on zinc and copper.
Great question. And look, I think copper is, both of these are essential metals moving forwards for the energy transition that we see going on. Both of them are used in batteries. Both of them are used in some of the other elements we have are used in solar panels, and indium's used in flat screens and solar panels and battery manufacturing as well. There's also some fantastic technology coming out in terms of zinc batteries and zinc air batteries, which people can look up on. And so we see, it's fitting to our low footprint and ecological type thematic. And it's also, these metals are supposed to be strong in the next few years. Certainly zinc is, with Red Dog potentially coming off in 24, 25. That provides, I think that's 70% of the US production of zinc at the moment. So there's certainly a niche that'll be there for us. And being located in Utah and close to smelters is certainly going to work in our favour. Similarly, copper, there's going to look copper deficits. As you can see, there's a 2.3 times growth between now and 2050. So yeah, very good reasons.
Yeah. Well, Dave, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you for talking us through American West highlights, and we cannot wait to see you guys take off. And of course, good luck today.
Thank you, Annabelle, and thanks for the discussion.